We all want to make a positive impact on the world, but what do we have to experience to get there? This is Stripped Bare FM, where our shared stories of strategy, raw talk, and real people uplift and inspire you. Now, welcome the host of Stripped Bare FM, Catherine Contos.
Today on Stripped Bare FM, I have the pleasure of talking with Jo Hawkins. She is the founder of the Phindile Foundation, CEO of Influencer Magazine, a master coach, a master facilitator, an international speaker, and she is the co-author and mastermind behind Power Within, The Mission, and the Magic, all based in the United Arab Emirates. Let's take a moment right here to share my book, Soul Shaker, A Whirlwind Awakening. It is a book that will tell you about my personal struggles on divorce, losing a business, all while having cancer, and how I used those experiences to catapult me to my optimal life and business. If you want to know how I did it, you can order it via my website, catherinecontos.com. Now back to our guest. Welcome, Jo. Are you ready for some raw talk?
Oh, Catherine, it's so good to be here. Thank you.
I'm so happy to have you here. You have such an inspirational story. I got to speak to you a little bit before, and everything started at a very young age when you were first starting your career as a nurse, correct?
You know, I think it might have started a little bit before that, when I was just a tiny little thing and my mum trained me to use my mind.
Well, then I would like to start there then. Please tell us what led you to this great life that you are living right now where you're helping others.
Oh, I had the most exceptional mother in the whole world, and she taught me how to care and love others and, be courageous in my life mission. She taught me how to use my brain in the most incredible ways. I think she was really the world's first transformation neuroscience coach that ever existed. And she totally changed the trajectory of my life.
And give me examples of what she would do or things or experiences that you had with her that trained you.
You know, my dad was telling me the other day that I was just born, and my mum said to him, "This one is trying to help." And yeah, so that was very interesting for me to hear. But then she trained me in just how to use the power of your mind, and that you can create different things in different scenarios and different outcomes if you believe there are other possibilities. So, for example, in the dental chair, I don't know, maybe I was 7 or 8 and had to have a massive drilling and filling, and the dentist popped out for a moment and she said to me, "Now listen, my darling." She said, "You can either have a local injection, which will hurt a bit, but then your mouth will go numb and your lip will feel swollen, and you'll still feel a bit of what's going on, but you'll be okay. Or I could teach you how to not receive pain."
Right.
So I said, right, I'm going with the not receive pain. She said, because afterwards your lip won't be swollen. It'll be sore for a bit, but I'll teach you how to not receive pain so much. And then when we go off for an ice cream or something, you won't dribble everywhere and you'll love it.
Yeah, it's always interesting after a dentist office, right? We don't know what we even look like afterwards. We don't feel anything. Okay, so go ahead.
So she taught me it doesn't matter what diagnosis you're ever given, what you're taught. So, for example, I mean, I've had many, many instances in my life where I was given a certain outcome and I would believe that I had the world's, most amazing person in front of me telling me things. So, for example, at around 10 or 11, I was told I'd have to wear glasses for life. And I didn't. After a year, they said my eyes had healed. And then nursing, we had a car accident. I fractured my hand and developed whiplash, but they didn't know that at the time. So I had a pinched nerve in my neck and I had no blood supply to my arm, my right hand. And I had not the world's leading, but he was the top South African neurosurgeon. And he was world leading in so many ways because he was designing all sorts of operations that didn't exist and having the most unbelievable results. And Dr. David Shane said to me, that I was going to have my right hand amputated. I was 17.
Oh my God.
My nickname was Daisy. He said to me, Daisy, we're going to have to cut off your hand, and then later on it's going to be at your elbow, and then it will be at your shoulder, because that's just the way this condition goes. It's called reflex osteodystrophy, and there's nothing we can do about it. I had a machine shocking my hand, a TENS machine, through my uniform. And my mother had just always taught me that there are other possibilities. And so I knew there were. And of course, with law of attraction, anyone who understands that sort of thing, we attracted the right answers. And within a short while, I was able to move my hand. And he said it was a miracle. I said it was called a chiropractor.
Mhm.
But she just taught me so often that there are other possibilities and you never have to accept what's presented to you. And so I've got many, many instances where I had the most incredible miracles because she had taught me how to think differently.
So do you find that your mind, from what what you studied and what you learned throughout your life and your experiences, because these aren't things that just happen to anybody, like did you find that you were able to program your mind to heal your body?
Yes, absolutely. And to not accept a bad result. Some people would have been devastated and just accepted that there was nothing they could do. But my mum had always taught me, no, there are other options. You must never, ever believe what you're told. So I was told I would never get through standard 8. So they just said, you're just not going to make it. And of course, I knew differently, and I got the best results in my family, and I've got, quite a sharp family, but all my school leaving results were higher, and my after school education was a lot higher than the rest of the family. And it's really just because my mother taught me that all things are possible.
Right. All things are possible. You just have to try and you have to think
Exactly.
differently, right? And a lot of people just fail because they don't try. It has nothing to do with anything else, right?
I agree. I think the belief, I studied harder than the others, but at the same time, I just believed that this teacher wasn't right. I always took these things as more of a challenge than a death sentence. You know what I mean?
Right. So you grow up now and you went to nursing school, from what I understand,
Yeah.
right? And when you came out of nursing school, you experienced certain things in your life that really just pointed you in the right direction and cause. Can you please tell us about that time?
Oh, so going into midwifery, I was, about 17 and a half, and we were in a mission hospital in KwaZulu-Natal, South Africa. And there was this baby in the premature ward. There were a whole lot of babies, and I don't know if you've ever seen a premature baby. They don't know how to lie in a fetal position all snuggled up. They only know how to lie like a little froggy on their tummies with their arms and legs open. And there was this one baby who didn't match the others. They should only be there for a couple of weeks while they learn to regulate their body temperature and grow a little bit and develop. And this one baby had been there for 8 months, and her name was Phindile. And I said to the Zulu nurses, what's with this baby? And they said, leave her alone, that is Phindile. And I said, what do you mean, leave her alone? It's Phindile. They said, leave her alone. So I went to the nuns afterwards and said, what's going on here? And they said, well, in the Zulu culture, when a family is in disgrace, the children are in disgrace. And this baby had been HIV positive at birth, and her family had abandoned her at the hospital, so the nurses refused to give her any attention. And I remember a saying from Mother Teresa, and she used to say that the poorest of the poor are those without love. And this baby had what we call medically failure to thrive. And I absolutely just gave her my whole heart and tried to love her and play with her. And she used to almost push me away and try to just lie there like I was disturbing her sleep as a good little baby. And I really had to bring her out of her shell. And eventually she learned that she could laugh and she could kick and she could respond. And then I dragged her down to the hospital kitchens and we drew up a meal plan so that we could wean her off her 2-hourly feeds, her milk feeds that she was on. And eventually, Phindile caught up to her milestones. And when labor ward was quiet, I'd take her around the missionary gardens and off to see the cows at the dairy and the kittens and just show her the sunshine in the world. And this little thing caught up her milestones and was the most precious little thing. And the Zulu nurses fell in love with her, which was very, very close to my heart.
Mm.
And her name is Phindile. So everything that I do has been impacted by this, and the realization that humanity really needs the human touch, and that otherwise we have failure to thrive. And then I realized that businesses, without having the right financial thriving, it doesn't matter how much a person is thriving in their physical form, their emotional form, their mental form, their relational form. If they are not thriving in their finances, they're not going to be able to afford any of the other good nutrition or treatment that they might need. So that led me on into business.
That's an incredible story. From what you're telling me, this baby was premature and it was neglected, right? There was
Yes.
nobody loving this child, nobody
Yes.
taking care of it. They were just feeding the baby, and that's it.
Yes.
And because of that, it was not growing, it was not prospering, and all it needed was love.
100%.
I see that also, and I'm sure you've seen it. When you believe in somebody, it changes their life.
Yes, it does. And I think that's exactly it, because my mum had believed in me. And funnily enough, when I was 8 months old, I had been hospitalized and near death for a number of months. And I remember hearing the doctors saying that my life was not worth saving. And I've always been the obstinate type. If you tell me I can't do something, I will find a way. So it was so interesting that Phindile was 8 months when I met her, and that there was this amazing connection, that I had failure to thrive and my parents were not allowed to touch me. And here we are in COVID, and what is happening? People are not allowed to touch, and it's the source of our microbiomes that give us immunity, and it's the source of our happy hormones. And it's really a very, very tough time for a lot of people right now.
Oxytocin, that's the hormone of love.
Yes.
Right?
Snuggle hormone. Yes.
Yes. So you left from there, and now you started because, you have a foundation, and you've started a foundation on her behalf because of that experience, right?
Yes.
That's beautiful. That is really beautiful. And what happened to this baby afterwards when, it started thriving Phindile was a girl, I assume?
Yes.
Because I'm not familiar with the name. So she grew up and she started thriving. What happened to this young baby that turned into a girl and possibly a woman? I don't know.
I would love to know now. Obviously, I've left the country and haven't been able to keep up. What happened was, around the age of 2, her HIV status changed. So what generally happens is it was the mother's HIV status that is read in her antibodies in the baby's blood. And then when the mother's antibodies are gone, the child's natural antibodies are there to be seen. So around the age of 2, you can really know what their real status is. And Phindile was HIV negative. Now, she must have had somebody in the hospital who was in the family or in her community or something, because as soon as her HIV status was negative, her family arrived to collect her.
Oh, wow. Look at that. Incredible. Incredible story. Incredible story. Thank you for sharing that, Jo. Tell me now, since then, the course of your life changed, right? You became more of a humanitarian and you started up this foundation and you started helping people. Tell me a little bit more about how your life has been since then and how you've been just working through everybody's, emotional struggles, strategic struggles, and getting them in the right direction.
I love your questions. There's nothing small about them, Catherine.
Right.
So I fell in love with humanity and just realized that this was my burning mission, was to get people to thrive and to fall in love with life and to laugh like Phindile did, just to be abundant and joyful and delight in their existence. So this has been my massive mission. And then, as I say, I realized that people needed to thrive in their finances, or else it wasn't going to work any other way. So I went into business and studied all I could. And I led a team of almost 2,500 independent business owners and taught them how to get themselves out there and relate to people and really learn to work from their heart and their purpose and change lives. And we had a conference and guest house, and we used to take bookings for the whole area. We had people who would call us at 3 o'clock in the morning when all the other guest houses said they weren't open, and they'd say, we're stuck somewhere and our car has failed, and we'd go out and find them. And we found them places where, when we were full, we'd find them other locations. And we just always believed in going above and beyond to make a difference. The local community there went through a massive recession, and Sasol, which produces all the fuel in South Africa, moved to Canada. And overnight, our booming industry just collapsed.
Mm.
And eventually, my husband took work in the UAE, and I had to decide between my guest house business. And in the meantime, I was helping out at the hospital whenever I was quiet in my guest house, So ICU would call, or theatre would call, or the oncology unit, and I'd go and help there, which was wonderful because it kept my whole hand in the medical field, which I love, but have a desperate desire to change. And when I moved to the UAE, I had to decide between my marriage and my business. And obviously, my marriage won. But I realized how desperate it is for the world that we need to make businesses that are recession-proof and all sorts of disaster-proof, so that if you need to move, it's not a drama. If you don't have to start all over again like I'd had to. We'd moved a lot of times through Africa. And so I designed a business model that was recession-proof. And when I used to teach it to people, I'd say to them, look, your business is not stable because you've got these gaps. And if something happens, you're going to be stuck. And they'd look at me like I was a bit mad. And then when COVID hit, people looked at me and said, oh, we get you. Because the model that I was given was a COVID-proof business model. Yeah. So then I'd had a dream while I was nursing of an arc. And I started what I call Influencer Magazine, which is not just a magazine. It's a whole community that is turning lives into legends with collaboration. It's the expert industry, the coaches, consultants, the knowledge-based industry, the infopreneurs,
Mm-hmm.
because these people have got such a heart for humanity. They want to change the whole world. And so that is where I will have the most impact. And so I designed Influencer Magazine to help people to monetize their passion or their mojo, turn it into alignment alchemy, because so many people are trying to run businesses that are not aligned to their heart song. They don't make them dance when they go to, go and sit at their computer. And then to find quick ways to expert status using neuroscience and business principles combined, and achieve the most strategic levels within the shortest period of time. So that is what I'm focused on now. And then with the Phindile Foundation, everything will contribute towards the Phindile Foundation. And ultimately, I would like to have my own clinics and hospitals.
That is amazing. Incredible stuff you're doing there, like the Influencer Magazine. This is online. This is an online magazine. Is that correct?
It's an online magazine, but it's a community. So coaches will be able to have their courses with us. They will be able to form courses with each other. We will have masterminds, workshops, events, retreats, and absolutely change the industry, because everyone is trying to function alone, and that is a very tough space. So if we can get people to realize that collaborating and alliances are the best, and we give them the easiest ways to get ahead, especially now with COVID, when so many people are struggling to find a new purpose and, their real purpose, actually, and to pivot their experience and their life skills, and to find a way to feed their families. This is something that is designed to give them the best start and the best finish.
And where do you see the foundation going?
The foundation I have in my Transformation Neuroscience certification group that I'm busy with. I have a wonderful doctor, and she's one of my students. She was first coached with me for about a year, and then she wanted to study under me. And she would like to lead and head my hospitals. So I would like to disrupt the medical industry, because I believe that they are so money focused, they've lost the person. They are so drug focused that they've lost the power of the mind. And instead of empowering people, they are just creating repeat customers. And it breaks my heart.
And what would you be doing? What kind of program are you thinking of? Because this is interesting, because I do believe sometimes, there's great doctors. There's so much beautiful stuff that happens within the hospital system. But a lot of times I will hear people tell me, things that happen, and it saddens me to hear, that someone was treated like a number, right?
Exactly. We're losing the person.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. So one of the things that I train on, for example, is pain control.
Okay.
So I can get somebody who is in a level 10 of pain. Perhaps they've got a migraine, vomiting, they're wearing sunglasses, they're trying to close their eyes, they can't hear any sound because it's agonizing. And within about 3.5 minutes, I should be able to get them down to a level 2 of pain or a 0.
That's incredible.
Well, morphine, pethidine, all these other things, it will take about 20 minutes before they start working.
Mm-hmm.
So if I can do it in 3.5 minutes, that's a lot of pain that person has been able to release.
Right.
So these sorts of things where we teach people how to use their minds, how to use the brilliance that we've been created with naturally to turn things around. We used to think that our genetic code determined our life. Now we know that we can change our genetic code when we meditate, when we think positively, when we learn to change our brain waves and our neurochemistry. So this is the sort of thing that we'll be doing, but I'd like to include all the different alternate healing methods and then bring in strong coaching skills for pain, for endurance, for survival, because when somebody turns their face to the wall, they die. When somebody believes there's hope, they can thrive. If they don't believe that their cancer diagnosis is a death sentence, we can do all sorts of things with a person who's got belief. So just training people how to use what we've been naturally given that we just have never learned how to use.
You know what? I've seen it. I believe it. I've experienced it. And there's research on it that the frame of mind of the person that gets diagnosed with a cancer, if it's a positive one, even with a terminal, diagnosis, they get to live a lot longer. And sometimes,
Yes.
In very rare cases, they do beat it. But, it does happen, and it happens more than not. So that is incredible training that would be so beneficial to so many people just to change their frame of mind and switch it to a positive one. Because really, it is just to retrain the mind, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And, for example, I've just got so many stories like this, but twice my husband was told that he had to go onto insulin and blood pressure medication, insulin for diabetes. And he said to the doctor, will you give me 1 month to get it right? 1 month, Grace, and I will come back and you can test me then and I will obey whatever you say after that. And both times I've sorted out his mindset, his diet, his weight, and we were able to avert it. Really and truly, my father, I wish I'd been able to train him, but he's not as teachable.
Right.
And I love him to bits, but he is now having dialysis 3 times a week. His eyesight is really bad because he didn't believe that he could control his diabetes. He thought he needed what the doctor said. He didn't know there were other ways, even though I said, he didn't have faith in that at the time. He thought it would be okay going on dialysis. But when you empower someone, magic happens.
Right. When, especially diabetes, right? Stress, produces cortisol, which produces, the sugar in your body. So it's definitely both a physical and mental form of disease because you need to control both. And I find that a lot of people, because it's so easy to take the pill, they don't question it, and they don't try to do something a little different. I'll tell you a personal experience of mine. I was in my 30s and I was told that, you're going to need to go on cholesterol medication. And I'm like, and my family, my parents, it ran in the family, but we also ate a certain way. And I said, give me a couple of months, and let me fix this. Let me try to figure it out because I do not want to go on medication. It causes joint pain. There's just all these side effects. And I went on a strict diet where I was eating red meat only once a week, minimal. And the rest of the time I did a lot of cardio for 5 days during the week. I eliminated all the bad fats and everything like that. And even a nutritionist told me, you can't just do it in 2 months. It doesn't work that way. And I'm like, well, I'm going to give it a try. 2 months
Good for
later,
you.
yeah, 2 months later, I went and did the blood test and it came back and the doctor's like, everything's great. And I'm like, okay, thank you. So then I told my family, all you need to do is change your nutrition. You know, it's not genetic. It's just the way we're eating. We have certain habits, right? So, and the same thing with diabetes. So I'm happy to hear that your husband was able to beat it without going onto the medication. It's truly mind over matter. And really, stress is a big one with diabetes.
Yes, it is. And, deciding to do things differently, deciding to get out of your comfort zone and take action, it's way bigger than people realize.
Right. And sometimes it's a bit of hard work, right? It's not as easy as taking a
Yeah.
pill as well. So it's like, you know, let's just take
But
the
man,
pill.
it's a lot easier in the end because I
Yes.
say to my dad, is this easier? Is this really easier than eating your greens or, losing some weight long ago?
Yeah.
And he's not enjoying it now. So I really wish I had imparted that more firmly earlier, but I just couldn't get through.
Incredible. Joe, I know my listeners will love to know even more about you and your strategies on how you made it through different adversities through people into success. So let's take a quick peek and a fast track through some questions. Are you ready?
Yes.
What is the one thing you are most excited about today?
I am most excited about human potential. I find human beings the most wondrous, amazing miracle there is.
I love that. I love that. That's a great answer. Share with us your one personal habit that makes you successful and keeps you inspired.
Personal development, can I say, which led to
Sure.
determination to preserve my energy. So I guard my energy viciously and I eat differently because certain foods take my energy, and I work out. And really, I am 49 and most people say I still look like I did when I was 18. So
Oh,
that's
wow.
kind of
You really do not look your age. That's for sure. You have youth just glowing. You're glowing when I see you. You know, it's incredible. You're doing a great job.
thank you.
Well, what book would you recommend to our SB listeners and why?
I love that question. Oh, I love Think and Grow Rich because I think it changes the way you look at life. And then obviously our book that I wrote with my other coaches, and it is called Power Within the Mission and the Magic. And it is just jam-packed with amazing content, both for an individual read and for a group study session or a retreat. There's journaling, there's questionnaires, and it's just really rather gorgeous. And I've got a load of my neuroscience in there for people.
Where can someone find that book, by the way?
Amazon.
Oh,
So it's
okay.
either paperback or it's there on an ebook. You can find it. We've got a group on Facebook. Join us. We'd love to have you. And I've
Amazing.
actually had some of my coaches who are about to start study sessions with it in groups on Zoom. So if anyone wants to join, just to let us know.
Perfect. Okay. So now for our soul shaker question. If you woke up tomorrow and you were stripped bare of everything in your business and only had shelter, food, and your family, what would be the first things you would do in the next 30 days with only $500 in the bank?
I love it. So the first thing I would do is remind myself that all things are possible and then go out and make it happen. People are precious. And when we connect to people, we can find the most incredible answers and avenues. And I know that if everyone just turned their purpose and their passion into a monetized form, that they will change the world, because that is the seed of God in your heart and you alone have that. And I really wish that more people would take it seriously and do something magic with their unique secret sauce.
That's an absolutely beautiful message. Thank you for that. Very nice. On a last and final note, what's the one takeaway message my listeners need to hear today?
That is that you are awesome and wonderfully made, and that all things are possible. Do not believe any negative news you ever hear. I want you to know that there are other possibilities, that there are miracles available to you if you just tap into them. And by doing that, it's just the hope, the love, the joy, the resourcefulness is all opened up by your reticular activating system in your brain. And if you allow yourself to believe, you will receive.
Amazing, Joe. I love it. I love it. What a
Thanks,
beautiful
Catherine.
message. Thank you so much. What's the best way people can connect with you?
My best is probably Facebook, otherwise WhatsApp. So I'm on LinkedIn, Insta, Facebook, a little bit on Twitter. I've got my website. So if you get me at Facebook, it's my strongest, and I'm Joe Hawkins Official. So there are a lot of famous Joe Hawkins out there, but if you go to J.O. Hawkins, HAWKINS Official, and that is a Facebook page, not a profile, you'll find me. And I would love to connect with your listeners, Catherine. You totally excite me, and your listeners are absolutely just up my street, looking for purpose, looking to feel better, looking to gain influence, and to pivot their lives at everything that I believe in and love. I would love to serve your people.
Joe, you're an incredible inspiration. Thank you so much for sharing with us your stripped bare story. It was incredibly amazing to hear it from the beginning to, I wouldn't call it the end, but to the continuation. I wish you huge amount of success with your foundation and your magazine and everything that you have going on, because it's just there to serve humanity and make this world a better place. So thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, thank you for having me, Catherine. It's just been such a joy.
If you're loving this podcast, I would love to see you rate and review after this episode.
That's all for this episode of Stripped Bare FM. Start living your best life. Head to CatherineContos.com for more information and resources, as well as ways to connect with Catherine directly. That's available exclusively on CatherineWithAC, KONTOS.com.